So I suggest to go straight away to the panel discussion.
Yeah, absolutely.
So please, the panelists, take your seats and join me with a round of applause to our next panel discussion.
Yeah, so we're joining me right now is Anne Kaminski from Facebook, Alison from you, and Alain, who is over there. So thank you so much for joining this panel. Very pleased to have this panel with all of you on technology as a customer engagement tool. So maybe you can first say a few words about who you are, your name, and what you do.
Hi, everybody. I'm Anne Kaminski. I worked at Facebook, so I'm a global client partner in luxury, and working on Instagram, Facebook, and all the messaging platforms too.
Hi, I'm Alison Branger. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Launchmetrics. We are a marketing platform and data analytics company. We specialize in fashion, luxury, and cosmetics brands. We're lucky enough to have some clients in the audience today from, excuse my French accent, Louis Vuitton, Chloé, Lanvin, Gucci, Fendi, etc. So we're helping them as they analyze their marketing strategies to connect better with their customers around the world.
That was pretty good in French. I'm Alain Revard. I'm the head of corporate development and business development at Poshmark. Poshmark is not anywhere else outside of the US, but it's the largest social commerce platform in the world. It's the largest fashion platform in the world, and soon, coming next year to Europe and the rest of the other countries.
Great. So thank you so much again for joining this panel. So we've heard a lot of it in the prior discussion about how digital can yield insights, but obviously digital is also a way to bridge customers and brands. There's an annual investment in marketing globally by luxury brands of 250 billion euros a year, so very important, obviously. So maybe we start with the first question. How would you define engagement? It's one of the most overused term in the industry. How do you engage? How do you value engagement for you? What's its value, and how would you measure it? Who wants to start?
Well, so I can start. So obviously we are a social platform. We don't do advertising, we do transactions as the end of our funnel. But so the engagement is measured every day. People spend 20 to 25 minutes per day on our app. They open the app 7 to 9 times per day. So it's basically in line with Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Pinterest, any of those top social platforms, except that we do transactions. So we measure it very carefully. We are on it and on our systems all the time, and it's the single biggest factor that actually generates transactions.
So I would say with the kind of digitization of our industry, brands are being challenged more and more to say, what is the value of engagement? And I'm sure you'd speak better to this actually, but I got 1 million likes. What does that mean for my brand? How does it turn into sales? And what we do at Launchmetrics is we help brands really estimate kind of their ROI and the value on what is engagement, what is amplification. So we've developed an algorithm called Media Impact Value that essentially looks at what's beyond engagement. So looking at, who's seeing your content, who's engaging with it, what is the content quality, and what's that ratio compared to qualified audience. I think sitting in this room, we're speaking to a lot of luxury business men and women here, and for you guys, it's more important that you are speaking to the right audience. So engagement is great, but if you're engaging the wrong audience, it will never translate into sales. It will never translate into media value. So for our customers, it's really helping them understand, what is qualified engagement, what is qualified media impact value, and then what does that do in comparison to the ROI for what I've invested to reach that kind of threshold.
I would really concur and say that at Facebook, we really have the same approach, saying that engagement is important, but what is more important for brands is to measure the impact on the brand equity and on the sales. So what we do with our partners is that after campaigns, we can actually measure the brand lift impact. So how does this campaign has an effect on your brand equity, on the way that the brand is perceived? So that's for the brand aspect, but we also measure the lift in sales, because ultimately that's what we want from engagement. So of course, engagement is a signal. It can be a signal of interest, but it has to be from the right person that is, at the end, ultimately going to be your consumer.
Alan wanted to.
So I'm sorry, how do you measure the impact on sales? Because it's the same question here. You know, we obviously have, you know, a platform where everything we do, every campaign we do on Facebook or on any other platform translates into sales. But we have those numbers. We never share them with Facebook. We never share them with any other partners. We also use a platform called Stargazer, which does influencer marketing, but it actually doesn't measure the likes, the shares, the posts, which actually mean nothing in reality. But what actually we measure is the transaction, the sales, and then the recommendation and the next sales from other people who downloaded the app.
Okay, it's an extreme viewpoint here. What would be your take on that?
Well, I guess your question was more like, how do you measure
Track.
sales?
Yes.
So it's interesting, Michael Jais, our CEO, is going to be speaking later today and sharing some insights on a report we did about the impact of influencer engagement, social media, different voices. And we're seeing really that it's twofold. In some regions, really this concept of engagement, social media, influencer marketing is having a direct impact on sales. I don't, again, want to give too much away. I suggest you check that. And that's because I think social commerce is much more developed in other regions. So there is that ability to really like click and measure. I think here, if you think about Paris, for example, again, I don't work at Facebook, so I can't really speak to that. I know from the brands that we work with, the engagement that they get is not as developed as the social commerce as you're seeing in Asia. I mean, if you look at Instagram, you guys launched shopping just this past year. So it's not something that we see really click to buy working as well. But that said, I will say the Western customer, they need a lot more of content marketing to get them to the point of purchase. So I am the chief marketing officer, so of course I always advocate for anything related to marketing, whether it is this concept of content marketing or influencer marketing. But I think you can't undervalue what that brings for brand equity, which then, of course, if you're doing it right, translates into sales.
So at Facebook, we measure sales both online and offline. So our measurements allow us to measure whether your campaign has impact on your online sales that we can track through the Pixel, but also on offline. So with the offline conversions tool that we have, and because every person has a unique user ID, we can really track to the point of sale. That makes it very powerful. So you can see whether somebody has been served a campaign, and then if this person has been buying, you can see the link between and measure really the influence of your advertising campaign on offline sales.
Great. No, thank you very much. So what I hear is very common, right? Is that what's important is obviously to have footprints, but also to track them over time, right? From the very early stages to actual purchase. And so that's why like tagging, right, is an important keyword in there. So how can you track like individual influencers? So I think, moving more generally, I think, we see, obviously we've talked about social media, but there are other technologies that are being increasingly used, chatbots, etc., across the customer journey to try to engage brands with customers. So what would you say, how do you use technology to interact with brands, and how do you see it working? What are the pitfalls?
So I'll start with, so yes, you've been talking about bots and about augmented reality, VR, etc. So we really see that as the future of engagement, because technology is really an enabler to create amazing and engaging brand experience. So that's how we see it, most as an enabler. And if we look, for instance, as an example at the messaging platform, what we're doing right now on Messenger, for instance, you can have a conversation with a bot, but the brand is able to deliver a very personalized message. And we launched, for instance, with Sephora, we launched an augmented reality experience where you can actually try on products on your messaging app. So you don't have to go in the store. You can just look at you on your app, and then the makeup is automatically done, so you can try different looks. So this is an example of technology making available something completely different, a real experience. And at the end, this experience is leading to the products that you've just tried on. You can just add them to the basket and buy them, so leading to social commerce. So great illustration of how a technology can create a brand experience, resulting in highlighting the brand equity, but also driving sales.
Thank you.
I think one of the challenges brands have today is the balance between gimmick and game changer. There are so many technologies perking up all over the world, and so many things that seem shiny and new and exciting. And I think some brands are doing a great job of saying, I don't want to be a follower, I don't want to just do something for the sake of doing it. And I think that's really the hard decision sometimes as a brand you need to make before investing heavily into something that you think is going to be the next new wave of digital marketing. I would say the areas that we are all quite we all know are key for our business, but we're not investing in the right employees and the right tools to leverage this better, is just data. The future of success is going to come from marketing to an audience of one. It's personalization, it's reaching the customer and speaking to them to give them exactly what they want, where they want it, and at the time that they want it. So I think having tools that give you insights into every kind of touch point you have with the customer and before the customer. I mean, in fashion, for example, you're doing your fashion show 6 months before that product hits customers, and you're already getting information about how your collection was perceived through Facebook, through your own PR teams. So why is that data not already incorporated into your wholesale plan and making sure that the regions where there's interest in those products are going to have a really strong kind of sales campaign, and the interest where, or the markets there's no interest, you know, you're already planning, okay, do I need an influencer marketing strategy to build awareness about those products 6 months before they hit the store? What is the customer looking for? Do I need to actually tweak what I'm sending to production? So I think success is really going to come at the end from looking at the data and arbitrating your budget to make sure that it speaks to exactly what the customer is looking for and building the products that they want.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I totally agree with what you just said. I think the issue is there's a lot of employees that will want, or companies that will want to try to show that they are innovative and that they are just, oh my God, I did this AR or VR or whatever, which actually led to no sales. I remember we were the first launch partner of the Apple Watch. And so, the reality is, it's not a medium for sales or for transactions, or at least not, commerce transactions. And so, I think the reality is there's a lot of temptation to actually launch new technologies, which are shiny and whatever, but they actually don't, translate into any sales. I think the biggest issue is 99.9% of all commerce online is through photos, and which is a very old technology. There's lots of technologies that are way more engaging, but don't convert into sales. So I think that speaks volumes about new stuff and whether it's gimmicky or not. I think the way we see it at Poshmark is we focus on people, we don't focus on product. So the minute you focus on people, you actually realize that the world is changing because it's personal, not personalized. So we don't use any personalized technologies on the platform. What we use is people. And because it's a peer-to-peer platform, they actually interact with each other. They answer questions. You want to buy a white T-shirt. Is it opaque? Is it transparent? Is it tight? Is it loose-fitting? Is it long? Is it short? How long? Can you measure it? Can you tell me, this is my size, this is my style? Can you look at my profile and tell me if it would work, with my wardrobe? And can you style me? All these things can happen in 2 seconds in a conversation with real human beings, which is enabled by our technology platform, obviously. But I think the most important thing is, we provide an end-to-end platform for people to just take pictures, just do the curation of the products, and just actually answer questions and have a real, conversation with people, one-on-one, all the time. And just actually enable them to actually have a lot more sales. And so when you focus on people, obviously, technology has to follow with that aspect. We have 40 million people on the platform, so obviously it's a lot of technology. But we don't actually have any gimmicky, new, shiny toy, that we use because it's not necessary.
Great, thank you very much. So, absolutely agree. Like the importance of one of the most important question that brands face today is, well, we have with all these technologies, how do we integrate them, like really, and which one do we choose first, and how do we kind of do this match between what we want, what the customer expects, and what the technology offers, right? And so it seems like it's a bit like a forest with lots of trees, and so that, what do I need to choose? So thank you so much for your insights. Maybe another way to look at this aspect is if you look back at the customer journey, right? So thinking about, from the very early stages, awareness, consideration, and then kind of, deeper aspects of engagement in the relationship. So what do you say to brands that really have these problems of starting to engage customers and then keeping that relationship going in terms of technology? What would you tell to brands in terms of matching the technology? We hear about data to different aspects of customer journeys. Are there some do's and don'ts kind of things that we would recommend? Who wants to?
I'll jump in. This way you can think about something to say. So I think that one of the key aspects is brands, are looking to do things at scale that they can control. So advertising is something they can do. They can do an advertising campaign. It's one creative, and they can just push it on all sorts of different platforms. They don't have the ability to engage the customer one-on-one all the time. And no technologies other than live chat is going to enable that. So I think the issue is what we're trying to say to brands who always come to see us and say, how do I actually work with you? How do I, participate in this, community and in the energy that you develop? And what I'm always trying to tell them is that they should free the user to, speak about their product on their behalf, and either in a negative way or in a positive way. Yep. But if they actually are able to just open that up, it will do wonders in terms of brand equity, which is, a very interesting concept, but not, very real. Yeah. And so I think what we actually try to do is to create an open garden, of messaging, of communicating. So we're, for example, integrated with Snapchat. We're integrated with Pinterest. We are the #1 content provider to Pinterest in the world. We send 1 million pins to them. They send us back, purchases. They are able to actually put advertising on it. But basically, our users, create, these looks that they want to sell on our platform, but they can share it on any other platform. And so by sharing it, they actually are having a conversation with people wherever they are. We don't think, anything is proprietary. We think that it actually should be shared and communicated. So it's very, very hard to take a view of controlling the funnel and controlling the customer journey, because you can't. There's just too many platforms. They're all digital. You're not controlling any of them. What you can do is share to them and let users advocate on your behalf. Yeah.
I think off the back of that, so we at Launchmetrics, we work a bit in influencer marketing. As I said, we work with brands when they're engaging journalists. And so we've done a lot of studies that as our brands are being affected by the changes in the digital world, what is the new kind of funnel of influence? So we say, for brands to be successful, they need to think about what's the goal and objectives. If you think about Coach a few years ago, they really needed to think about repositioning the brand because it had become a bit old and stale. And I'm a huge Coach supporter, so if you are in the room and you're from there, please, it don't mean any disrespect. But what they did really well is they aligned with Selena Gomez and leveraged her kind of brand equity to create awareness of kind of this rejuvenation of the brand. And that was really, really successful. Or if you think about, I don't know, Tom Ford, when they launched his new fragrance, how he leveraged traditional media to create awareness to an audience that maybe wasn't the Tom Ford customer. And that was great because they thought about, what is our goal? We need to capture a new audience. We need to send a new message. So let's think of these kind of voices that speak to this objective. Then there are those brands that actually, they have a lot of awareness, but maybe they don't have the same type of authority in the marketplace. So when that's your objective and you really want to reach the customer, that's where influencer marketing plays a critical role in kind of taking this awareness and telling this audience, okay, you should believe and trust in me because XYZ influencer stands by my brand. Then I think exactly what you started to say about the customer voice and the role that plays. I mean, I think influencers are great to kind of capturing that audience attention, but then you still, again, need to engage the voice of the customer to say, to their friends. And today, I think it's almost undervalued, the word of mouth marketing that the customer brings to the conversation. And then I always bring this up because especially in fashion and luxury, I think people think social media is so easy. Like, yeah, you're just gonna post a picture on Instagram, get 1,000 likes, and it translates into sales. But actually, there's a strategy behind a successful owned media campaign. And I think if you think about the kind of funnel of influence, we always joke, but who better to buy a Rolex than someone that already owns a Rolex? So if you want to do it right, talk to your media, talk to celebrities, help them garner awareness. Use influencers to create legitimacy, the customer to echo that legitimacy, and your own media strategy to increase your share of wallet. And I think thinking to these different touch points, really you can build a successful strategy because, again, it's having the right message at the right place at the right time that really pushes people through the customer journey to increase purchase. So that's my 2 cents.
Completely agree with all the messages. And there's 2 points I wanted to make building on what you say. First is the scale versus the personalization. If you look at Instagram, for instance, we have 1 billion people following and using the platform. But each and every one of them has a unique and personalized feed. This is through technology and through artificial intelligence that we're able to do that. So this is a good example of how technology is used to create a luxurious experience, because when we are working in luxury brand, what we want is to create personalized, curated experience. So definitely technology makes it possible to do that. And then second, if we look at the customer journey, the way we work with brand is that we partner with them to help them do full funnel strategy. So exactly at the beginning of the funnel, when you just want to increase the awareness of a product, we help brands find, as you said, the right person with the right content at the right time. And that is thanks to the technology that we're able to push the right content. Then when somebody has interacted with your content that it shows interest, we can then retarget this person with a different message, because now the person knows, she knows about the brand, she knows about the new product, but she may want more information on how to use it. So that's the moment when, for instance, when we work with brands that have different content, let's say a very short video, we would use it at the beginning of the funnel just to tease. But once you've seen some interest, that's when you can push different content. There would be longer content to drive them further to the end of the funnel. We're more in the social commerce part, and we help the brand so that you finalize the transaction. So different strategies through the funnel, thanks to the use of technology and the signals used by the customers.
So in a way, there's another way to phrase it, which is, all brands have top-down strategies, but they don't have a bottom-up strategy.
Yeah.
So what's your bottom-up strategy?
Yeah. And there are different ways actually to do that. And one of them is through data. I remember a few years back working with L'Oreal, right, and how now there is a company that you can really aspire to, because they started implementing big data analytics with very simple 2 of the S's that were in the prior presentation: search and social media, and trying to identify what do people say about their hair, what do people say about their skins, etc. And what was great about the case we wrote was that the name of the brand that they chose was actually the name of the Google search. right? So whose name was Ombre. You can Google it after, and so it really speaks to this maybe extreme version, but it also speaks to me to the notion of how do you not only use these new technologies but integrate them into your processes, right? Which I want to hear your thoughts about. I also really liked what message was, I think, was very clear about the importance of sharing. Right, and how do you transform your customers into advocates into this digital world? That is very important and increasingly important. I had one thought on that is one of the projects that we're currently doing at INSEAD involves looking at how the mere fact of sharing affects consumer decision making. Because what does it do to consumers to just tell them, hey, you can share with their friends. And so what we do is an experiment which is very simple, where imagine that you go to a Godiva website, for instance, and there's either the share button or no button at all, right? So you can either do it to Facebook, etc. And what we ask customers to do is to choose 12 chocolates within the assortment. And what we find is actually there's much greater variety in the sharing condition than in the non-sharing condition. And that's partly driven by the fact that if you start asking customers to share, now what they're going to do is start sharing with others, and greater variety is instrumental to do that. But it's the reverse for experts, because the way experts show expertise is rather through narrow choice rather than expanded choice. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining this panel. We've learned a lot about it. Hope you can stay with us for lunch, and thank you very much for your attention, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.